Hey, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips for massive forehand control. Please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Even share this video with a friend, as those are the best ways to support this channel. All right, tip number 1, synchronization of the arms and body. You don't want to think that the forehand is just swinging your arm. That's not what you want to gain control on your forehand. But rather, think of swinging the racket with your body rotation. That turning the body away from your target is the backswing, and then turning the body back toward the court is your forward swing and your follow through. So here's a great drill just to feel that. Hold the racket on its ends, and I'll show you this from the side. And you can do this right now with me if you'd like. I'm doing this in my basement, so there's no reason you can't do this with me right now. Hold the racket on either end and just take the racket up slightly, circle around, and then pretend like you're taking it up over your shoulder. So circle around and hit. What this does is it gets the left side of your body and the right side of your body moving together. You can't pull just your arm back, but the way you're going to take the racket back is by turning the body. When you get the body to turn and then the body to unturn, you get the body to coil and you get the body to uncoil, you get the feeling of the synchronization of the body and the racket. One note, you'll notice I did not just pull it back and then go forward. I made a loop, right? So I'm making like the letter C. That's the C swing that you see the pros use for racket speed. So take the racket slightly up on the way back, circle it around, and then hit. You'll notice at no time does my racket go vertical or inverted. That my hands are always staying level in this drill. It's a great drill just to feel the body being very connected with the arms and the racket. Tip number 2, keeping the head super still when you're hitting the forehand. This is what I like to tell my students. Put your chin on your front shoulder, and then when you're done, put your chin on your back shoulder. Let me show you what this looks like. When you take your racket back, and obviously you're watching the ball as it's coming in. Remember, we're turning the body on the backswing, but we're going to keep our head looking at our opponent, like I'm looking at the camera right now. My chin is touching my front shoulder. Well, when you're done, keeping your head super still, remember the body is rotating, but I'm going to keep my head super still. And now my chin is touching my back shoulder. So it's put your chin on your front shoulder, put your chin on your back shoulder. When your head is super still, almost like you feel like you're keeping a glass of water on your head, it makes it so much easier to track the ball. Also, one thing, when you begin your forward swing and you're trying to line up the body movement to hit the ball, if you then look up, and you can just see what this does to my racket position, see how it changes where my racket is. So a lot of times the racket's coming right to the ball, and then you look up to see where your shot's going, your racket rises up and you hit the frame. A woman I used to work with who was a very, very good golfer, she said she took a golf lesson one time, and the golf pro told her, if you look, you won't like what you see. I thought that was awesome. I heard that about 15 years ago, and I've used it all the time with my students because I love it. So if you look, you won't like what you see, meaning if you look up to see your shot, you're not going to like what you see. So just keep your head very still. Turn, putting your chin on your front shoulder. Finish putting your chin on your back shoulder. Keeps your head super still, keeps the racket alignment going through contact, also helps you see the ball to make better contact. Next tip, having a long contact zone. So this is a very well-known concept and drill that coaches will have their students do. And so if I just take 2 tennis balls and put them on the ground, my goal when I'm striking the ball for massive control is to get my strings to face to my target for as long as possible. Right? And so this is the feeling that you want. So if I just spread the ball out, let's say this is, 15 inches apart, all right? My goal, if I'm hitting the ball this way, is to have a place in time where my strings are facing toward my target or close to my target for as long as possible. So if you just have 2 tennis balls right now, I want you to swing and have your racket over the first ball with your strings facing, if you're in your kitchen, have your strings face your TV, in the next room or wherever. And I want you to just move the racket and try to keep your strings facing to the same place. That is what is called a contact zone. It's a place, or I should say a distance, you can hit the ball and the ball goes in. One added technique to this is take a coin and place it on the edge of your racket. And then, let's see if I can keep it on, and just move the racket from ball to ball, keeping the coin on. I did it. Keeping the coin on, but having your strings go from the first ball to the second ball. Now, since we're looking for topspin, you're not going to want to move it straight forward. There should be an upward movement because we're trying to swing from low to high, imparting topspin. So just that concept of when you strike the ball, your strings are going to face towards your target for a long period of time means you could hit the ball here, you could hit it here, you could hit it here, and you could hit it here. Like you could hit it anywhere in that amount of time and that distance, and the ball is going to go where you want it to go, boosting your confidence. You're going to absolutely love it. I really like that drill for players who struggle with where their strings are pointing. And when I give that drill to my students in their lessons, all of a sudden they feel their strings facing their target. All right, next tip. It has to do with topspin. You can't talk about control without understanding the concept of topspin, and that's just getting the ball to roll over itself. I'm an affiliate of the Topspin Pro. This is an awesome product. I'm going to put my link in the description below. For at-home and on-court practice, please pick up a Topspin Pro. It is absolutely the best. I'm so proud to talk about it. So when you're hitting a tennis ball, and this is a concept for like serves and overheads, when you add spin, typically what you're actually doing is you're adding control. You're adding an element of control to the ball once it leaves your racket. So when you're hitting a topspin forehand, what you're doing is you're adding spin in order to control the ball once it leaves your racket. And topspin is going to be created by going from below the ball to above the ball. And this is what I was talking about with that contact zone, that it's from below to above, keeping the coin on the edge of the racket. When you're hitting the ball, the goal is to get the ball to spin over itself. And you can see the ball is rotating. When you make the ball rotate over itself, what it does is it pushes the ball down. It puts a lot of pressure on the top of the ball, less pressure on the bottom, and the ball actually kind of gets sucked down. It's almost like extra gravity. The ball gets sucked down into the court. This is why the pros are able to hit so fast, and somehow the ball stays in. It's almost like their court. I've actually had people who take lessons with me and they're newer to the game. They'll say, do the pros use a court that's bigger? It just looks like, it's so easy to keep the ball in the court. And then they're hitting the ball and the ball's going over the fence. They don't understand yet the idea of topspin. So practice making sure that when you're hitting the ball, you are brushing the ball. Now, obviously, if you put too much spin on the ball, then it can suck it into the net or it doesn't have any penetration in the court. So obviously, there's a give and take here. Don't hit perfectly flat, but don't think as much topspin as possible. Obviously, there's a give and take and there's a Goldilocks, if you will, of the amount of spin. But we want to go from below the ball to above the ball. So you can combine all these concepts. I'm going to turn the body. I'm going to make sure I keep my head very still. I'm keeping my strings facing my target, brushing up the back. This is what I love about this. You can just practice it anytime. I have my kids practice on this. It is awesome. And then the last idea is the concept of 2-1-2. The numbers represent how many hands are on the racket throughout the stroke. You don't have to use all 5 of these tips. One of them might make total sense to you and be what unlocks the massive control you're looking for. Or use all 5, or use 2 of them, that's fine. But this one seems to be the one that is just the linchpin to it all. And it makes so much sense for players, and I want you to try it. And again, it's 2-1-2. What you want to do is take the racket back by turning the body with both hands on the racket. Again, that's that synchronization, right? We're making sure that both hands are on the racket, just like we did this. We're going to take the racket back with both hands. We're going to hit with one by turning the body again, going from low to high, keeping the head still. And then you're going to finish with 2 hands. So it's 2 hands, 1 hand during contact, and then 2 hands. Notice, by the way, you can see my armpits. So I'm lifting up, not bending my elbow. I don't want you finishing with your elbows down. ATA, air the armpits. The armpit should be exposed. I love it when I'm feeding balls to a student and they finish like this with their hands higher than eye level. They're swinging up to lift the ball over the net, but they're swinging up enough to get the spin to bring the ball back down. I've had people in the comments, in emails, in lessons on court, they'll say, but I don't see the pros catching the racket a lot. And I agree with them. I said, you're right. When you're that level, you often aren't looking for more forehand control, right? I don't think Serena and Osaka and Roger Federer are typing into YouTube how to get more forehand control, right? But to be honest, we do need more forehand control. So this is something that we can do that's going to allow that. I wouldn't say necessarily that catching the racket is something that has a huge benefit. The way I would phrase it is not catching can be a huge detriment. Your arm drops, the body can't turn, you swing across, you don't get much side spin. So it's almost like putting your non-hitting hand in a timeout. It's like, look, don't screw anything up. Just catch the racket and just stay out of the way and don't do anything that's going to be detrimental. So turn the body with two hands, hit with one, and then finish with two. I want you to let me know in the comments below which tip or tips resonated with you and made the most sense, and which tip you think is going to make the biggest impact in your forehand. If you start using these or any of these 5 tips in your forehand, you're going to gain the massive control you're looking for, you're going to win more matches, and you're going to play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.